Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let us start with the prayers. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now Mahamrityunjay mantra 3 times. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrityormukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrityormukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrityormukshiyamamrutat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone. Today I want to begin the declensions of some different nouns which we haven't covered so far. One, I want to show you the Ukaranta nouns. Ukaranta means ending in U. I also want to discuss a little bit on the samasas which we covered last time. That we'll do later. So I just want to start with a new topic of a few more declensions of nouns. So a few more nominal declensions. So today my plan is to cover the Ukaranta and Rukaranta, and that way we would have covered most of the nouns ending in vowel. So you would have pretty much the full set which is generally used. There are some other nouns which are there other than what we cover, but for a good part, after today's session, you would have covered most of the nouns, vowel ending nouns. So today we'll do the Ukaranta words ending in U. And I told you earlier once that how it's done, but we never went into the detail of it in the course 1. So this one is the declensions of Hari, which is an Ikaranta noun, ending in Ikara. The Ukaranta noun is very similar to Ikaranta noun. The change happens, I'll show you where the change happens. So for one, I changes to Ikara, changes to Ukara. That is clear. Then Ikara changes to ukara. Okay. Another change which happens that comes from some of the sandhi rules we studied earlier. And if you look at here, guna sandhi, ikara changes to ekara. I mean, akara and ikara, they together change to ekara. And corresponding to ukara, there is okara. So here also, we would have this rule here that ekara would change to okara. And yan sandhi, if you look at, here ikara changes to yakara and ukara changes to vakara. So here also, wherever we have yakara, that will change to vakara. So once you understand these transformations, then you would be able to derive very similar the declensions of ukaranta noun based upon ikaranta noun. So we'll see how it is done. So Hari, and we'll take the ukaranta word as guru. It's an ukaranta. Guru, you all know this word, guru. I don't have to tell you, guru is masculine noun. It means a teacher or a spiritual preceptor. So if you look at Harihi, here the ikaranta changes to ukaranta. So it becomes guruhu. Harim similarly becomes gurum. Harina, here it will change guruna. You see ikaranta because changing to ukaranta. That's the main thing. Then hara ye, and here you will write, and akara remains akara, yakara becomes vakara. So it becomes gurave. If you remember the prayer of the Guru, Om Gurave Namaha, because Namaha takes the fourth case, that's how it becomes Gurave. Then we have Harehe, and here it becomes Guroho. Ekara becomes Okara. You see, Ekara becomes Okara. Harehe, that also again becomes same. Guroho. Harau, that will remain same way. Gurau. He Hare, it becomes He Guru. Ekara becomes Okara. So you see, it's so easy. You don't have to really memorize. You can easily find out what is the declension of ukaranta nouns once you know ikaranta. One-to-one correspondence. And he, as you know, this is just an optional word to indicate it is a vocative case. You don't have to have he. It's just guru would also be indicating that it's a vocative. It is just an additional word. Similarly here, if I go on to the dual, it becomes guru, ukaranta. Ikaranta becomes ukaranta, ikaranta becomes ukaranta. Similarly, guru, and this will remain as haribhyam becomes gurubhyam, haribhyam becomes gurubhyam, haryoho. So this would become gurubhyam, haryoho, it becomes guruvoho, because yakara becomes vakara, and then he hari becomes same, he guru, he guru. Then the plural harayaha, same way it will become guravaha. Yakara becomes vakara. Harin, it becomes gurun. Ikara becomes ukara, long ukara. Then haribihi, this remains the same way. Gurubhihi. Haribhyaha, it becomes gurubhyaha. Remember this yakara, this is not a part of guru, or it's like bhya. So this will not become to vakara. So just be careful. Similarly in haribhihi, this ikara will not change to ukara, because this is not a part of the vibhakti. This is a part of the suffix that is common across the forms. So this change will take place only when change is related to the word hari, not the change related to suffix. So just be careful on that. Gurubhya, same way. Harinam, it becomes Guru Nam. And if you remember, this is Ranatvam rule, which is applicable in Guru, just like in Hari. But if it were another word, like Bhanu, which is the word for sun, then it will become Bhanu Nam. You will not have Anakara. So just be aware of that. Harishu, it becomes Gurushu, and He Haraya becomes He Guravaha. So with this, you can see so easily Ikara change to Ukara automatically gives us the table for Ukaranta nouns. No additional memorization is required, because you already know these rules of Sandhi, that Ikara becomes Ukara, Ikara Ukara, Ekara. And this kind of correspondence you will see in many places where Ikaranta and Ukaranta words are concerned. In some other grammar rules also, you will see this kind of correspondence. So just be aware of that. So this same way it will go into the feminine nouns. So just want to show you. So this is the whole form of Guru. And just like Kirti, we had for the feminine nouns Ikaranta, same way we have Dhenu, Ukaranta nouns, and it exactly goes in the same manner as as we did for the masculine. If you know for Ikaranta, you can derive the Ukaranta feminine nouns also. Neuter also works in the same manner. But in neuter, there is not so much of yakara or yakara to vakara or those kind of things. But it works in the same manner. We have put the forms of the neuter. Neuter and masculine, as you know, they go very close to each other except in the first and second case. But in this case, varina, varine, varinaha, if you look at harina, haraye, harehe, they are slightly different in case of ikaranta and ukaranta nouns. Additional nakara is coming. Just be aware of that. Generally, there are not many words which end in which are neuter kind. We are just putting the forms here so that you will have the forms for the reference. But you really don't have to memorize these forms. There are not many words which you will find in literature which are in neuter. Most of the words in ikaranta are masculine and feminine, and ukaranta is primary masculine. Even feminine words in ukaranta are not many. So, but you do find some of the words in neuter and feminine. So we must have the tables for that for our reference purpose. So this is the ukaranta. Now the only major vowel ending noun which is remaining is rukaranta, ending in ru. So there are two types of rukaranta words. One is of the relation type. So when I say relation type, means the family relationships. So matru, mother, pitru, father, bhratru, brother. If you remember, once we discussed that how these words, mother, father, brother, have come actually from Sanskrit words in English. So matru, mader in Spanish or Portuguese, and then becomes mother, like this. So from here Latin, and from Latin to some iterations, and then finally in English. So these are very similar. That way it will be easier for you to remember the Sanskrit words corresponding to the English words. So these are the one type of the rukaranta noun, relationship type. Another is agent type. Agent means doership. Like these are derived from a particular verb, and the doer of that verb. When I say agent, it's in the grammatical sense that one who is responsible for doing the work, the doer of the action, that is the agent noun. So for example, kru dhatu, you all know, kru means to do. Kartru, the word becomes kartru, it becomes doer. Dha means to hold. Dhatru, one who holds. Also it's known, the name of this name is also known for Brahma, the creator Lord. Netru, this from the root ni means to lead. So netru means leader, and like this. So agent noun simply means the doer of that particular action. So two types of rukaranta words are there. Relationship, as you can imagine, these are limited in number. Maybe like 15-20 words are there. On the other hand, agent nouns, because they are derived from the roots, they practically can be as many words as the roots are, which are 2000. Of course, we don't use all the 2000 roots. As I told you earlier, mostly 400 to 500 roots are more common use. So, but you get the idea that these can be quite numerous agent nouns. Relation type, again, another criteria is that you could have masculine and feminine. Mother would be naturally feminine, bhratru and pitru would be masculine. You will not have the neuter words in the relation type. agent nouns, they can be used as a noun as well as an adjective. When they are being, and they, in that sense, they can be masculine, feminine, or neuter. However, when you make a feminine out of it, it becomes, it ends in e karanta. So netru, which is leader, it becomes netri, means female leader. So once the word changes to netri, its declensions happen as per the e karanta noun. If you remember, we did the nari. That was long time ago, but I hope you remember that. So nari, e karanta noun. So once it becomes netri, its declensions will go like nari. So technically you can say there are no agent nouns ending in feminine nouns, ending in rukaranta. So the agent nouns ending in rukara could be either masculine or neuter. Generally you will find the masculine nouns being used in the literature. Neuter very, very rare, but they are there. Okay, now how do you derive the forms? So we have taken a sample paradigm here. So first I wanted to show you, I want to first show you between the masculine and feminine both relation type. So Pitru, father, Matru, mother. So this is how the declensions go. Pita, Pitarau, Pitaraha. Maybe you can chant after me. So I'll just speak one row and you repeat after me. Pita, Pitarau, Pitaraha. Pitaram, Pitarau, Pitrun. Pitra, Pitrubhyam, Pitrubhihi. Pitre, Pitrubhyam, Pitrubhyah. Pituhu, Pitrubhyam, Pitrubhyah. Pituhu, Pitroho, Pitrunam. Pitari, Pitroho, Pitrushu. This is vocative. So I haven't put he here because the word can appear just like that. Pitaha, Pitarau, Pitaraha. So as you always know, vocative can only differ in the singular from nominative. Dual and plural are always the same, no matter what the declension is. Whatever the ending is, dual and plural are always the same in nominative first case and vocative case. Only the singular can change, singular can be different. Sometimes singular is the same, sometimes it is different. One thing you have to notice here is this form, Pitrun. This is the long ru. It's not commonly occurred character in Sanskrit words, but here it is coming. Pitrun. This is long ru. And the same long ru is coming here. Pitrunam. And because of this rukara, and you see nakara is coming immediately after that, it will always be ra. So in rukaranta noun, this particular word will always have ra, no matter what rukaranta noun is, because the very fact of Rukaranta noun, it is the Nakara follows it, and therefore it becomes Pitrunam. Similarly, always Pitru Shu. Shuk, it will not be Su, it will be Shu, because this one only Akara or Akara, if it is before Su, then it is Su, Sakaranta dental sound. Because we will not have Akara or Akara here in case of Rukaranta noun, it will always be Shu, Pitru Shu. So just these things to remember. Now the feminine nouns go exactly like the masculine noun, except this one. So Pitrun, here it's a Matruhu. Instead of Nakara, it becomes the Visarga in feminine. That's the only difference. Otherwise, it is exactly the same. So that's the relation. This is the relation type now. Now I want to show you the agent type noun versus the relationship type noun. What is the difference? So you see, this is Kartru, means doer. It's an agent noun, and Pitru is the relationship noun. So one of the difference you will see here, these 5 forms, they have the long A. Karta, Kartarau, Kartaraha, Kartaram, Kartarau, Kartrun. Here it's only the first singular, nominative singular has the long form, long A. Otherwise it Pita, Pitarau. So here it's Kartarau, Pitaraha, Kartaraha. So you see the difference. Here it's Akara, here it's Akara. In the first 5, here the Akara is only in the nominative singular. That is the main difference between the doer agent noun and relation noun. Otherwise, the whole thing is the same way it is created for both types. So this declension becomes quite easy in that sense, because there is a masculine relation and feminine relation. Only one form is different. There is an agent noun and relationship noun, masculine. And here it's the first 5 forms, which we also saw on unending nouns, that they are having the long A. Here it's only the first singular. That is the difference. So here I have even noted the point, and we will include in the class notes these points. So only nominative singular is strong. Accusative plural for feminine nouns, I told you that is different. And here is another thing. Some of the words in this category, relationship type, they follow the type 2 pattern, not type 1 pattern. So there are like 4 or 5 words. One of them is very common, is Sasru, which is sister. So by the word itself, it is a relationship type noun, as you can see, but it follows the agent type. So it will become Swasa, Swasarau, Swasaraha, like long A, Swasaram, Swasarau, Swasruhu. But in the, because it's a feminine noun, it will take in the feminine, the second case plural, it will take Swasruhu like this. Again, you just get familiar. If you get familiar with one form, you would be able to identify the words which are occurring even in the other nouns. I'm just giving you some details here, but even you don't have to really be too much bothered by all the details, because one of the things we have to remember, our purpose is to be able to study and understand. Our main purpose is not to compose. So if Swasru word appears in the text, you would be able to identify most likely, even if you just remember these forms, that, oh, it is this particular case and number. It becomes a different thing if you have to compose, and if that is the main objective of our studies, then the studies will be quite different. It will be more in depth and more scenarios that where the exceptions occurs and all the tables. Agent nouns, the important thing is to remember first 5 forms are strong, that is with the long akara. There is no feminine as rukaranta, because feminine ends in ikara. It becomes netri, like this. These nouns can be used as neuter, though much less common. For the sake of completion, I have included the neuter ending here, but it's not so common. It normally is used more as an adjective, because if you are using it as an agent, as a noun, generally it will be a masculine. So mostly this is used as an adjective to some other noun. So here I have given datru, giver, as a neuter. What would be the paradigm here? So with this, we have covered all the vowel endings. So there are some others which end in vowel, some nouns, but those are not really common, and we will not cover them as a part of this course. If they appear in the text, we'll take the help of the reference. But as far as this course is concerned, for vowel ending nouns, we'll just cover this much. We may refer to a table directly if there is a need, but we will not cover that how to get to it. So this is the whole sheet. I'll share this sheet with you either in this form or in the Word document form, and then you can, and also of course all these forms are available in Thomas Eugene's book also, so that way you can keep them for your reference. So these are practically all the vowel ending nouns. So before I go further, I just want to take any questions. Okay, there is a question, why Hari vocative will turn into Guru instead of Guru with long U. Let's see what is the question here. So Ukaranta, so it is Hari, that's why it's Guru. Here it's Hari, it is, you are right, I had made a mistake here. It becomes Guru. Thank you for pointing it out. So it's not Guru. Let me correct Devanagari. Guru, this is long Ukara. May not have come very well, but just to let you know, this is just like Guru, hey Guru. Thanks for pointing it out. What is a good reference for declensions? These books have, like Thomas Eugene's book, as well as the book which I recommended for the 2 course, Sanskrit Subodhini. They have all the tables, practically all the tables which you would need. Sanskrit Subodhini has more than this, because they have taken many exceptional cases also, but all the books have. And there are some special books I haven't seen in English, but in Hindi, in India, which just like some small booklets, which just give you the declensions. So people sometimes buy them very cheap, but I haven't seen them in IAST script. They are primarily in Devanagari. So there is a question, are we going to cover O endings like go? Not in this course. As I said, those nouns are not very frequent, and as and when there is a need, we directly refer to them to the table while reading the text, but generally no. There is a question, why Guru ends in long M and Harim ends in M. So okay, so this is actually just, I think it can be written as Gurum. So this is depending upon the how do you use, but you are right. When it is used by itself, it should be gurum, not with the anuswar. Okay, so some other people also identified this mistake. Thanks for letting me know. Can we use Shabd Manjari? Yes, there is a question. Can we use Shabd Manjari? Shabd Manjari, as I was telling you, that this is a booklet which gives you all the declensions of all the nouns in one place, and but it's only Devanagari to my knowledge. One who has it, it's also available for download from the internet if you search on archive.org. But it's perfectly fine to use it. Okay, there is a Michelle. You have asked a question regarding Hindi. We'll just send an email. We'll recommend you separately. So there is a question from someone. I'm not sure. Instead of Sanskrit Subodhini, can we use Shabd Manjari? Yeah, you can. It's fine. Look, all the tables. These are the standard things in Sanskrit. No matter from where you take, as long as there are no typos, it is fine from where you take. It doesn't matter because this is all standard text in Sanskrit. Whether you pick up a book 1,000 years old or today, these tables haven't changed. And there are a lot of resources on the web where people have composed and compiled some of these lists. So you can refer to those also. That is perfectly fine. Okay, so with this, I want to cover one thing, and the Sandhi rule. So remember, we discussed this Sandhi rule, the dental letters. If you remember the alphabet we had, Sanskrit alphabet. So these 5 are divided into these 5 places of pronunciation. So these are the dental letters: takara, thakara, dakara, dhakara, nakara, and also sakara. Among these are called Ushman. These are the technical name of in Sanskrit. So these are all dental letters. So these 6, not lakara, they change into palatal letters, corresponding palatal letters: chakara, chakara, jakara, yakara, or shakara, when they come in the contact with these palatal letters, or they will change into this palatal upper cerebral letters: takara, thakara, dakara, dhakara, nakara, or shakara, when they come in the contact. So the one which changes is the dental letter changes. Now when they come in the contact with either palatal or cerebral, they change to corresponding letter. This is what this rule says here. So I just wanted to show you in the tabular format because it is easier to comprehend. But essentially that's what the rule says. Dental letters, these 6, they change into corresponding palatal letters when in the vicinity of any of the ever mentioned palatal letters. So takara will change to like Satchit. So here takara is in the vicinity of chakara, which is a palatal letter. It will change into chakara. The chakara itself will remain unchanged, only takara changes. And here we saw this example already. I just wanted to repeat that. Raj plus nakara, so jakara plus nakara. Now nakara is the dental letter, as you see, nakara. It comes in the vicinity, and I have defined vicinity. It could be either before or after. So it comes in the vicinity of Jakara, which is a palatal letter. It becomes Nyakara, corresponding dental letter. Nakara changes to corresponding palatal letter. Nakara changes to palatal. The same logic applies to cerebral letters. Exactly the same. It changes into the corresponding cerebral letters. So tat tika, tat tika, tat tika. Tat tika means tika is commentary or the some comments on a given work of literature, like a secondary book to explain. And tat means that or his, in case of samasa, we'll discuss later. So tat tika would mean his commentary or that commentary. Chakrin dhaukase. So here nakara comes in the contact with dhakara, which is a which is a cerebral letter, and nakara changes to nakara, which is a corresponding cerebral letters. So chakrin dhaukase. This is a chakrin is the name of Lord Krishna. Dhaukase means you go. So somebody is saying, "Oh Lord Krishna, you are going." So chakrin dhaukase. So this is the Sandhi rule. This is a very general Sandhi rule. And this is, as you can see, the scope is quite wide. You will find this Sandhi rule being applied into many circumstances again and again. So I just wanted to give you this Sandhi rule. There are, of course, as you know, in Panini grammar, there are rules and sub-rules and sub-sub-rules. So this is the top level rule. And then there are certain cases where it is not applied, but we are not going to discuss those cases. Primarily, if you remember this, it will help you a lot in understanding a lot of transformations as a part of the consonant sandhi. So this is as you know, this is the rule of consonant sandhi. We have covered for vowel and visarga sandhi in course 1 for a very good part. Like most of the scenarios are covered for vowel and visarga sandhi. For consonant sandhi, we haven't covered many scenarios, and the rules can be somewhat complex in consonant sandhi. This is one of the foundation rules of consonant sandhi. So Ejane's book, if I go to chapter 280, let's see. So some of the rules here for the final nakara he has given separately. So someone asked me if I could explain these rules in the class. I do not, so I just want to give you some idea, then you can follow on your own. I hope many of you who studied chapter 16 already covered these. So what he is saying that preceding nakara becomes this if it is followed by these letters. So when nakara followed by chakara, nakara changes into this combination. So from here, if you look at our rule here, if nakara follows chakara, it should change into nyakara, right? And then there, as I said, these are the further rules which again come into play which changes this way. So you have to be just aware of that as I said, this is the top label schema, and then there are sub schemas which will come into play, which will change the individual combination. So what this book has done is, this book has given you example of every case. Tasmisha, Naransha. You can, if you put these two together, if you are reading soft copy, then I would say print this page out. If you have the hard copy, then it should be easy for you to see one to another correspondence. And you can literally follow with the examples here. So there are 8 rules he has defined, and for every rule he has given like 1 or 2 examples. Okay, so like for example here it becomes double nakara when it is preceded by a short vowel. So you can see the example of those. So I hope that should help you to understand these rules. Similarly, in the 17th chapter, he has given for Sandhi rules for the final takara. And these are the 2 major characters, takara and nakara, which will undergo a lot of change. And here also in the same manner, he has given takara remains takara. And you can see in some cases our rule, this rule which we just discussed, comes into play. So it before chakara and chakara, before chakara it becomes chakara. Before chakara it becomes chakara, takara. Before takara it becomes takara. Before takara it becomes takara. But here he is saying in this case it changes to dakara when these vowels, these consonants follow. So takara and nakara especially, they are 2 characters in Sanskrit consonant sandhi which undergo many more changes than other consonants. So note down these rules specifically for takara and nakara, and then you can, with the help of with this, he has given again, these are 8 possible or 8 combinations, and he has given the examples of 8 rules which you can follow. And that way, if you, these 2 consonants specifically, he has taken separate effort, and for the right reason, because these 2 letters in specific especially have many more possibilities of transformation. So please do that. If you remember, we did the lat lakara. So we did the lakaras, and this is another thing which Eugene's book here is saying. So this is the datru. He has given datru in masculine, which is fine. As I said, that this word can occur in masculine or neuter. I have included the neuter declensions in the table, in the sheet. Here he has given masculine. So same word can be used in masculine or neuter because it's an agent type. And then he has given the swasra, the one exception I was talking about, which follows the type 2 agent type, even though it's a feminine relationship type now. Then Eugene's book talks about future tense. So gachami, we already have discussed in class 1, and if you look at here gachami, he is saying that sometimes it can indicate as if it's a future, but generally it's a present tense. The specific future tense is called root lakara, and it is formed by adding sya or isya. So it becomes gamishyami. So gamishyati, gamishyati. I'll show you the endings. These are all posted quite some time ago. Verb conjugation table. It's there in the repository. So this one, lut lakara, future tense. Gamishyati, gamishyatah, gamishyanti, gamishyasi, gamishyatah, gamishyatha. So they follow pretty much the same as the lat lakara, gachyati, gachyatah, gachanti. In this case, it becomes gam, and the main thing is it adds shya. Similarly, patishyati, patishyatah, patishyanti, here it's patati, patatah, patanti. So you can see that it follows pretty much similar conjugations as the lat lakara, the present tense, with some difference. So whenever you see this sya or shya, sometimes it could be sya depending upon the previous letter is akara or akara, you would kind of have a very good idea that it is a future tense verb. Remember, we are trying to identify, right? So that is our main thing, that to be able to read. Whenever you see this combination, shya, you will have a very good idea, or it could be sya, S-Y-A, sya. You will have a very good indication that it's a future tense, lut lakar. In case of lav dhatu, it becomes again sya but te. But you see still sya is coming here. So whenever you see this, you will know here it could be sye because it's lapse te. But this idea that this combination in before the final suffix, it gives you a very good clue that okay, this could be a future tense form. So with this, if you have any questions, you can ask. Otherwise, we'll have the break for the class exercise. So there's a question. So the book name, somebody is asking what is the book name. I'll respond to all. The Shabda Manjari. Shabda Manjari. That is the book name for getting the nominal declensions. There is a request that so we'll go to the Karanta nouns here. So Kartri, Netri, Netri will follow the exactly the Ikaranta like Nari. So it will not follow Rukaranta pattern. It follows the Ikaranta feminine pattern. So whenever we make a feminine noun, agent noun, it ends in Ikara and it follows the Ikaranta feminine noun pattern. There was a request for Rajan. So how does it work? So Jakara follows by Jakara is followed by Nakara. So the rule says that dental letters, in this case the dental letter is Nakara. When it is in the vicinity of palatal letters, Jakara, it's a vicinity. Vicinity, I said either it could be immediately before or after. So either side. So Jakara is in the vicinity of Nakara. Nakara changes to corresponding Nyakara, the palatal letters. Okay. And thus this thing is pronounced as Ragnya. It's a, as I told you the last time, there are two consonants which have a little bit special form and sound, Sha and Nya. You can refer to the previous class notes or videos to see those more of those. But that's how it works. Okay, so somebody is saying there is a black square on the screen. Let's thank you for pointing it out. Okay, so that should be taken care of now. Okay. Okay, so there is a question that how to identify the past tense. So this is the thing about these classes here. So we don't have the physical classroom, and I understand that you have a question and don't have the immediate opportunity to clarify. But the advantage of these classes is that you have the videos, you have the class notes, and you have all the material exercise, and you can watch them as many times as you want, whatever the portion you want. So that way we don't, even if you do not understand a point immediately, you always have the option to go back a particular class and only watch that clip which is describing that, and read the notes, corresponding notes. So yes, it is ideal that I understand everything in the class, yet given the nature that it's not a physical classroom, it's probably not going to happen for everybody. Moreover, the different people are in the different states of preparation. Not everybody has done all the exercises thoroughly. So their understanding again would be a little bit different from somebody who is very thorough in exercises. Yet everybody has this opportunity to be able to go back to the previous class notes or class videos whenever we have discussed that particular topic. So please do so, please take advantage of this format. We may have some disadvantage in terms of not being able to have physical interaction in the physical classroom. On the other hand, we have a lot of advantages here, that we have the recordings of all the videos, all the notes, exercise and everything. So please do take the advantage of this format, whatever the advantages it offers. So with this, I will have a break of giving a class work. So this is our going to be class work today, class exercise. So please write the nominal tables for Bhratru, which, as you can say, brother, it's a relationship type noun like Pitru, and Netru, leader, which is the agent type noun like Kartru. So I have put the tables here. So these two you write the tables for, Bhratru and Netru. So right now it is 9:59. We'll gather again at 10:10. Okay. Thank you. I'll mute myself and stop the video. Welcome everyone. I want to point out from the previous class when we covered Samasa, a few questions came, particularly those related to the exercise in Eugene's book. And I want to pull that up to see. Okay, so that was the exercise 6 in lesson 16 of Eugene's book. Those who have not yet solved or submitted the exercise, please do so. It's very important for your own learning that you be regular in submitting the exercises. So one thing here was ya atmanam bodhati sa karma karmam ramate. The Eugeni's book had said. And let me pull that up here. So here, ya atmanam bodhati sa karma karmam ramate. So there is a mistake here. This book is trying to make a samasa of karma and akarma. And then it is making a samasa called samahara dvandva and making a form of karma karmam. Now karma and akarma would normally form the iterator dvandva, not samahara dvandva. And in iterator dvandva, the form will become karma karmani. Swami Tapasyananji helped me to find this form. I was searching, but he helped me to find this form. Acharya, no, it's not a common samasa, karma and akarma. Very rare. Actually, after searching very long literature of Sanskrit, we find in Shankar Bhashya on Gita, he has used this form in one or two places. Karma, karmani. So the way you would make this particular form is karman and akarman. Remember, when we make dvandva samasa, two forms come together, karman and akarman, pratipadika forms, the nominal base forms. So karman and akarman. The nakara gets dropped from the previous word. So it becomes karma, akarman. It becomes karma, karman. And then accordingly it becomes karma, karmani, the dual form. Similarly here, he has used siddhi, asiddhim. So this is a wrong because it is not siddhi, asiddhi. It should be siddhim cha, and then it should be siddhya siddhi. It becomes again a iterator dvandva, not a samahara dvandva, and it becomes a feminine noun and it becomes dual, siddhya siddhi avagachat. So there were these couple of mistakes which caused some confusion for those who submitted these exercises and they were asking these questions. So a couple of things here to remember in Dvandva Samasa, which we discussed last time. There are very specific rules on which word to put first and which word to put later. So karma, akarma. Can I put akarma, karma, akarma, akarma, karman? So the answer in this case would be no, because there are some very specific rules which should become first and which should be the second word. Similarly, there are very specific rules in which words allow the iterator dvandva and which words allow samahara dvandva. Both these set of rules, they are beyond the scope of our course, this Sanskrit too. And it really doesn't hurt us because our purpose, I mean, we are doing this exercise from English to Sanskrit just to gain a little bit understanding. But our primary purpose is to be able to read. And the main idea is that you should be able to identify a samahara dvandva form. It will occur in the neuter gender, singular, and the iterator dvandva form, which will occur in the dual or plural. But here I just wanted to correct it. So I have corrected it in the exercises in the folder. If you check, and then I have made a cutting across so that you understand that it was wrong and then correct form has been put together here. So do not worry too much about, of course, you are solving these exercises and questions are always welcome. But please understand that there are like lot of rules which decide which can be samahara, which can be itaretara, and where it can be optional. If we are to compose, and that's where the difference arises, if our purpose is to compose Sanskrit, then we need to go deeper into those rules to understand that how can I make a samasa. Otherwise, for us, it is not so important what are those rules if we only want to study. And more you study, more you get exposure that hones the skills even for somebody who is interested in writing a Sanskrit poem, for example. Another thing about Dvandva Samasa is that Dvandva Samasa relatively is not so common compared to Tatpurush and Bahubrehi, which we'll discuss in the next session, other Samasas. Those are more common. And there, this confusion is not there, whether it's Samahara or Itaretara, that is only in Dvandva. Similarly, which word should come first? In Tatpurush and Bahubrehi, the rule is relatively simpler. Because in Dvandva, both the terms, they are equally important. In Tatpurush and Bahubrehi, that is not the case. Therefore, the rules are relatively simpler there. So we'll discuss those later. But I just wanted to point out and that these are the couple of mistakes in the book, and I have corrected them here. And if you are solving them, and I really appreciate people who are solving them and paying so much attention that they brought it to our knowledge. And Swami Tapasyananji, he is helping a lot with these work, and he found these forms so that we can be 100% sure that Itaretara Dvandva is the correct combination as well as Itaretara Dvandva is correct combination here. In any case, Itaretara Dvandva is far more common than Samahara Dvandva. Samahara Dvandva is not so common. So with this, I'll just take a few questions which had come earlier. So let me just increase the size here so that you could see. Okay. So one question is Atman. When we did the Atman paradigm, I thought Atman should be neuter, can be used for man or woman. Can you please answer my question? So Atman means self, and self of course can be used for oneself, whether that person is man or woman. However, in Sanskrit, as I told you, it's the word which decides the gender, not the meaning of the word. So therefore, Atman can be masculine, and yet it could be used in indication towards as oneself, either for man or woman. So there could be many such cases where you will find, I gave you the examples in the previous class also, like water. Water generally you would think as a neuter now. But in Sanskrit, there are 100 plus words for the water. And some of the words are masculine, some are feminine, and some are neuter. Most are neuter, but there are masculine and feminine words also. So then there was another request in the book, if possible, in class, can you review the 8 rules about Nakara change? So I just covered in brief. I wish I could cover in detail, but we may not have so much time to cover each and every rule in give huge detail. There's a question, just a question about strong, weak, and weaker forms. Aside for them defining the way certain base forms are declined, like nominative dual of neuter based on like Naman will have both weak and weaker forms. Do these forms have any other important significance? No, these do not have any other important significance. That's how the table is. And as I said, the Panini's grammar does not have this nomenclature, strong, weak, and weaker. Panini just gives the rules that depending upon certain scenario, this particular form will be created. Many people later on, they have tried to put some structure around it for understanding of the people, and they have come up with this structure, strong, weak, and weaker form. But Panini, this is the beauty of Panini. When you study Panini grammar, everything becomes very clear, crystal clear actually, that how all this system works. If as per Panini rules, truly speaking, there are not exceptions, because he has tried to cover each and every single word occurring in the literature. Not sure why these forms are accusative instead of nominative. So if you remember, karma, karman, they are both accusative and nominative, and depending upon the context in the sentence, they will be either accusative or neuter, because they are identical in both the cases. So that's why you will see that these are defined as accusative here, because the context demands them to be accusative. Is there any other website or resource to use to check the gender of base words, or should I continue using Bhagavad Gita? You can check dictionary. Dictionary does define for any word what is the gender, masculine or feminine, or if it can be used in more than one gender. How we usually find the base word? I can look in the analysis of Gita online, but I do not know if we usually would know it by ourselves or find it somewhere else. So that's where these tables are. If you get familiar with these tables, you would know that what is the base form. In the words, in the scripture or any other literature, as I told you, you will not have directly the base form. You will have one of these forms. And if you are familiar with the grammar and structure, you would know that it is the base form. These days, some people have prepared some interfaces, computer related interfaces. The links are already given in the documents in the repository, some useful links, where you can reverse lookup. So you can put a form here and it can tell you what is the base form. We have to be a little bit careful about those engines, because they are programmatically, and sometimes they may give you a little bit wrong information or too much. So, but that is another option in the modern times to use that computer engine, and you can find the links in the repository for those things. I have a request regarding the best way to study and solve the exercises in Thomas Egan's book. To solve them, I need to consult all available tables, and still I need to compare my answers with those in the book. It is very rare that my answer was right from the start. I always need to adjust a declension or tense, or even the use of pronouns. It's very frustrating, and I wonder if there is a more correct way to learn. What am I missing? So two things, as I said. One is Sanskrit to English translation, and that should not be too much of a problem if you are following the classes properly and the lessons properly. The English to Sanskrit, I can understand that can be challenging. So if you can still go ahead and do it, but if you're finding it too difficult, you can skip them. But Sanskrit to English, you must definitely do, and see that where you are making the mistake. Where, if you have any doubts or questions, you can send it to us, and we will try to address those doubts or questions. But practice and understanding the lessons thoroughly, that is the way. Pranam, respectful thank you for the to the person compiling the notes for Sans 02 course. I'm studying the notes, which helped me a lot. So thank you for appreciating comments. For Sanskrit 02, we have Bindima. She is a volunteer, a student volunteer, who is putting a lot of efforts in preparing these notes. And Swami Tapasyananji here from the ashram, he is my brother monk. He is putting a lot of efforts in making sure that those notes are put in a accurate and presentable format. So thank for this team of 2 persons for preparing the notes for Sanskrit 02. Please do read these notes. These are really very detailed, and it will clarify it may clarify a lot of things which you may have questions about. I have a question about the query page, or query on page 11 regarding Ratha in Okay, I'll take this question later. This is a little bit detailed question. So this one is automatically taken care of. I already explained. The Dvandva Samasa, there were some questions, Siddhi, Asiddhi, Karma, Akarma, Samahara, or Iteretara. Then hopefully this is taken care of. So this is one comment I wanted to share because this shows the person, even though she is finding it difficult to do that, but very committed, very dedicated towards doing the exercises. So since the latter part of Sanskrit 01 and for today's submission, the assignments I send in are essentially copied from the solutions posted in the repository. That is the only way I can keep up with the course, as my own attempts at solutions are filled with errors and blanks. I'm also putting in more than 10 hours per week. Even this much copying brings me much joy, and I would like to continue the course. Also, it has helped with certain depressive tendencies I have, clearing my mind a little. So thank you for your dedication, thank you for your efforts, and I'm sure that slowly as you continue, you would find that you would be able to solve the exercises on your own also eventually. But even if you're copying, just make sure that you do understand the concepts behind it. And if you have any questions, please always feel free to send it to us. And then I'll just take this question so that we finish it off. This was related to word Ratha in example 204. So let me pull out 204. And the relating to sentence 4. Dasharatha gives a chariot for Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita. And the question is, it's Ratha, the chariot. It's used in accusative rather than dative case. I just happen to be looking up in Sanskrit nouns in Wikipedia, which says that accusative case signifies what the agent seeks most to attain, and the dative signifies an act of bestowal, a recipient in act of giving or similar acts. As such, it would seem the Ratha in this sentence is dative. I'm not sure how are you reading it, but act of bestowal is precisely what we have put in the dative case, that is Sita, for whom it is giving, Rama, Lakshmana, and Sita. That's where it is the dative case is coming. And Ratha, the chariot, is precisely what is being sought by them, and therefore, or even by Dasharatha. So that's coming in the accusative case. If you still have questions on this, please feel free to send it to us, but read it a little bit carefully. And also we will be discussing, hopefully, in this course, more usage, Karaka, this as a part of this course. I'm hoping. We do not know how far we will be able to go, but to see that what is the further use of different vibhaktis and different, how are they used in a sentence. So with this, we have pretty much taken care of all your questions, either which you have sent by email, either we have responded to you, or some questions I wanted to consider here for the everybody here. And I just want to see any chat. So there is a question, Swamiji, can you number the pages of the class notes? It would be easier to reference. I do not know right now. I hope that you are reading the class notes, and you should be able to see wherever, if we send the email, Tapasya Nanji, he is helping with the email responses. He many times refer to the class notes number where you can refer to. Okay, the exercises, I just want to quickly go through the exercise for today's class. So we have exercise for these are the simple. We already did the declensions. So these are the tables you will be doing, the declension tables for these 5 nouns. Then we have list. This is the identifying from the Bhagavad Gita for the nouns ending in Ukara or Ukaranta. I'll add the number of nominal words which are there. Then this is for the Thomas Egan's lesson 7. So lesson 17, sorry. And I have included the transliteration for those who may not know Devanagari, because some exercises are only in Devanagari. So this is, so I hope that with this, if you do the exercises and lessons, you should be able to understand most what is being discussed. And if you have any questions, always feel free to write us. Okay, with this, closing prayers. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Thank you.